Unveiling Adesanya's secret training formula for UFC 287 Domination. There could very well be many more thrilling chapters in the fighting career of Israel Adesanya. But however long the history book for the last Stylebender ends up being, there's no doubt one of its greatest chapters will be tied to what he did at UFC 287. If you're a big Adesanya fan or are good with UFC numbers, you know that at UFC 287 the star finally avenged his previous losses to Alex Pereira. Not only that, Adesanya electrified the MMA world by taking out his rival in last Stylebender fashion. So, why was the result at UFC 287 different? After coming up short against Pereira on 3 other occasions, why was Adesanya finally able to defeat Poatan, one of the most feared strikers that has ever walked on this great planet? Well, before we get into Adesanya's secret training formula for his UFC 287 domination, we have a small request. If you enjoy this video, please be sure to subscribe to KO Central MMA. With that out of the way, let's drill down into Adesanya's greatest victory to date. The stakes. If you've included kickboxing in your combat sports diet over the years, then long before Adesanya or Pereira ever stepped into the octagon, chances are you were aware of these two men. Further, you very likely had seen footage of their fights. That's because for some time both Adesanya and Pereira were widely regarded as two of the best kickboxers on the planet.
Don't need to be in a clinch, stop!
Although Adesanya had fought many more times under the kickboxing rule set, when he battled Pereira for the first time in 2016, he lost via decision. The two remained on a collision course, and in 2017, Pereira bombed Adesanya out with a booming hook. The fight's final moments certainly made the internet rounds, but few people back then could have predicted just how many times that highlight would end up being seen. As it turned out, that loss to Pereira marked the end of Adesanya's kickboxing career, and he focused on MMA. As you and all of your pets know by this point, the last Stylebender went on to win UFC's middleweight crown in 2009. Pereira's MMA road took a few turns and was sidelined for a while, but after going 3-0 to begin his UFC run, which included him ruining Strickland, Poatan was booked to fight Adesanya last November. For much of their UFC 281 bout, it looked like Adesanya was going to avenge his losses to the murderous puncher. But in round 5, Pereira stung the last Stylebender, and it was all downhill from there. So when the UFC confirmed Adesanya and Pereira were going to throw hands for a 4th time this past April, you didn't have to be a genius to understand how much pressure was on the former champ. Sure, another loss to Pereira wouldn't have prompted folks to call for Adesanya's retirement, but a 4th defeat to the vicious striker would have been catastrophic to Adesanya's championship aspirations. Further, speculation and talk about Adesanya's future would have spiked and then some. Case in point, following his 3rd loss to Pereira, more than a few folks questioned whether Adesanya's MMA career had already peaked. Taking training up a notch. So as UFC 287 approached, there was a mountain of pressure riding on Adesanya's shoulders. He may not have cared what the outside world thought, but as we'll see, he certainly cared big time about making sure everything was in place so he could get one back from Poatan. In the weeks leading up to their 4th fight, Adesanya's camp posted video blogs of the star's training camp. Not only did the video footage document that Adesanya was doing plenty of hard sparring, they captured the decorated fighter putting in a lot of hard work on bikes, the pool, and the road. Regardless of what went down at UFC 287, Adesanya was going to know that he did all he could physically to prepare for the massive fight. In one of the vlogs, the Nigerian-born fighter reported this about his camp and what was going to happen to Pereira as a result. "Best one yet," Adesanya said. "Short camp, but full of discipline, full commitment, full dedication. I know the work I've done. I know what I have to do," continued Adesanya. "I'm going to beat this guy. Fuck, I can't wait. I'm going to fuck this guy up. That's it." And F him up, Adesanya did. It all pays off. As discussed earlier, April 8, 2023 will always be remembered as one of the greatest days in Adesanya's remarkable fighting career.
I'm very highly opinionated and highly critical of this
In fact, it'll likely always be remembered as one of the most memorable and historic fights in MMA history. Not only did Adesanya muzzle many of his detractors and doubters by finally defeating Pereira, he did so in where were you win fashion. Especially since immediately after taking out Poatan, Adesanya further buzzed the combat sports world by emptying an invisible quiver of arrows into his fallen foe. Pereira understandably came out confidently, and early on there wasn't any telling indication that the result was going to be any different. Then, late in round 2, many Adesanya fans likely covered their eyes as Pereira fired in strikes that seemed to have the last Stylebender in trouble. The assault looked all too familiar to Adesanya supporters, as it was reminiscent of what went down in the final moments of their UFC 281 bout. But what we didn't know was that Adesanya had this all planned out. In fact, the last Stylebender had practiced this exact scenario in his camp. As Pereira bombed in shots out of seemingly nowhere, Adesanya jacked Poatan with a counter right that wobbled him badly. Another follow-up shot sent the champ crashing to the deck, and Adesanya's aforementioned post-fight celebration ensued. Immediately after the bout, Adesanya had this to say about his head-turning victory. "I know who I am. I can bring it and take it over when I need to. For this fight camp, this fight I had to. Like I said, they forgot. They forgot what I've done in this game, what I've done for this game. And just because you've been down and out by the same person doesn't mean that I'm gonna stay down. I've watched too much anime. I've seen too many flashbacks and animes to just like, oh no, I'm gonna stay down. You gotta get back up again, and you try until you get it done." And get it done he did. But according to Adesanya's coach, the renowned Eugene Barrowman, the champ's success was more so about him focusing on what he does best rather than reinventing the wheel. Basically, we needed Israel to be more aggressive, we needed him to lead more, we needed him to be better in the mid-range where he used to be a master of, but he hasn't needed to be a master of because he can just beat guys on the outside where they can't touch him. You can't do that against a high-level kickboxer anymore. This is high level. You're fighting a guy that's done stand-up his whole life. We had to bring back old things and bring them back onto the table and unlock them, and that's what he did. He did a fantastic job. In a fascinating video Adesanya shared a few days after his pivotal win, the champ talked about how he laid a trap for his rival. Further, the video included footage of Adesanya sparring and slugging his way out from being captured along the fence. Compelling evidence of just how masterful a combat technician the last Stylebender is. The knee injury is revealed. Immediately after UFC 287, Adesanya had heaps of praise tossed at him for very good reason. Not only had he been victorious in a fight many believed was a must-win variety, he had done so in super impressive fashion against one of the most feared fighters on the UFC roster, a stopping machine that had defeated Adesanya 3 times before. So yeah, the MMA world was spinning about the fight big time. But just when you thought the win couldn't have been any more impressive, we learned that Adesanya had actually jacked his knee not far out from the fight. Adesanya's camp released footage that showed the champ hurting his knee and ankle during a grappling session. As it turned out, Adesanya had incurred a grade 1 tear of his MCL less than 2 weeks before UFC 287. "I remember the feeling as well. It was hot," Adesanya said. "It felt hot, like a burning feeling. But this is just mental toughness and adrenaline. We're fighters, man. Don't worry. I've been through worse. I've been through some shit. No doubt about that." What's in store for Sean Strickland? Due to the fact that Adesanya and Pereira are technically 1-1 in the octagon, there was some speculation about whether the UFC might run it back one more time, but Adesanya made it immediately clear he had other ideas. "I don't want to fight the same guy 3 times in a row because I have less than 20 fights in this game. I'm 33, I could probably go on for as long as I want to, but less than 20 fights I think I have in this game, if I'm being honest. So I just want to fight new faces and take new heads. That's what I want to do in this game." More recently, it looked like that new head could be Dricus du Plessis, the South African fighter drawn the ire of Adesanya after making controversial comments regarding the fact the champ now resides in New Zealand. After du Plessis put away former champ Robert Whittaker in July, Plenty of signs pointed to the fight happening, but on account of a reported injury, du Plessis wasn't ready to go at UFC 293, and the promotion has tapped Sean Strickland instead. Now, Strickland didn't last too long when he threw hands with Pereira last year, but there's a good reason people say styles make fights, and so it would be foolish to write Strickland off against Izzy. Strickland has great defense, footwork, and counter-striking, so it would be interesting to see how Adesanya approaches the fight. Will we see the champ fighting at range and firing kicks from the outside more frequently? Or, given that Strickland is more so known as a volume puncher than a power striker, could Izzy look to trade in the pocket instead? But what do you think of Adesanya's performance at UFC 287? And how pivotal a victory was it for the last Stylebender? And do you see Strickland ending Izzy's second reign as the UFC's middleweight champ on September 10th? Let us know in the comments below, and just a reminder, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like it and subscribe to KO Central MMA. Until next time, enjoy the fights.